Hi, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Roman, and I'm working as a product manager at Crate. And today I'm here with my colleague.
Hello, everyone. My name is Romanos Sonkinas, and I work as a lead engineer here at Crate.
Thanks for that. So yeah, welcome. The topic of today's webinar will be data import and specifically data import with CrateDB Cloud. But before we, that's us, in case you don't recognize us. Before we dig into the webinar itself, just a quick reminder about the house rules. You have a Q&A function in Zoom. Please use that to send us any questions anytime. We will address the questions at the end of the webinar. There is a dedicated slot for that. And also at the end, there will be a feedback survey. So would be very kind if you could fill that out and give us some feedback. Let's start with a quick look at what we will be talking about today and what we have in petto for you. I just did the welcoming. The topic, as I said, is data import with CrateDB Cloud. So I will explain a bit about the data import features that we recently built into CrateDB Cloud. And then afterwards, of course, we'll show you how easy it is now to import data with CrateDB Cloud, specifically the CrateDB Cloud console. And to wrap it up, we'll also show some visualizations in Grafana. And of course, as I already mentioned, at the end, we will have some time for questions and answers and a bit of a discussion. So let's have a quick look at today's playing field to give you a bit of orientation on what we will use in the course of today's demo. And by the way, we'll make the slides available to you afterwards, of course. So on Crate side, we will use the CrateDB Cloud console, which is CrateDB Cloud's management web UI. We will also use the CrateDB admin UI. We will use Grafana, and the purpose in today's demo, we will use a local install of Grafana, but it should also work with Grafana Cloud or any other Grafana. And we use the pretty common New York City taxi set that you can get from the New York City Gov site. One thing to mention, everything we will show will be on Crate's development environment. The release and public availability of the latest data import features that we showed today is planned for next week, calendar week 18. So watch out for the go-to-market and release messages. You will see that pretty soon. So before we dive into the demo, just let me share a few thoughts around data import. Naturally, when you test, evaluate, or just use a database, one of the first steps is to import some data, to get some data into your database. Depending on what method you choose, this can be more or less effort. Also depends on how advanced you are. Are you an engineer? Are you a data scientist? Are you just a product manager, product owner who wants to test something? So what we wanted to do is we wanted to provide our users with a convenient and simple way to import data with just a few clicks. We also wanted to ensure compatibility with common data formats like CSV, Parquet, JSON. And maybe most importantly, we wanted to lay the groundwork for future implementations that unlock even more powerful methods of importing data. But we will talk a bit about that at the end of the webinar when we give a bit of an outlook. Having that said, I suggest we look at what we got, and I'm more than happy to hand it over to my colleague, Romanos.
Yes, Roman, thank you very much for the kind words and all of the introductions. As Roman said, today we are going to show you how to import data into CrateDB Cloud clusters. So first I should mention, as Roman said, that we are doing this on our dev environment and giving you a sneak peek of all of the features that are coming up in CrateDB Cloud. Some of the features are already released, but the file import in particular is coming out next week. So before we go on, a brief intro into the CrateDB Cloud console and what you're able to do here. I already have a cluster deployed. It is using our CR1 plan, which is a basic cluster for development purposes, with up to an odd amount of 1.75 CPUs and 7 gigabytes of RAM. In this case, I have 64 gigabytes of storage per node on my 3 nodes, and running the latest available CrateDB version, which is 5.2.6. Before I go on, I should say that every CrateDB Cloud user is entitled to one free cluster. You can deploy a cluster by just signing up by going to console.cratedb.cloud. And our CR free plan is there for you. And it is free as long as you use it. So if you have continuous activity on the cluster, it can be running forever, but we will suspend it after 7 days of inactivity to avoid people abusing the service a little bit. But as I've said, I already have a cluster running. So what I'm going to do is go into the management interface of the cluster and see what I have here. We have a new data tab available here, which shows me and guides me through data imports. So you're able to import data at the moment from 2 sources. The URL source is already deployed and live in production, and the file source is something new that we've just developed. So to import data from a URL, you just go and click that. I don't have any other data, so I'm just going to use our demo dataset. As you can see, it's going directly to our public S3 bucket that contains the New York City data set. By the way, an amazing data set with a bunch of insights about how New York City's taxis operate, which we will take a look at in Grafana towards the end of the demo. I'm going to select the table name that I want it to be imported into. Let's say for webinar from URL. And it is in JSON lines format, and it is also gzip compressed. So all I need to do is click import, and a new import job is started for me. Now, this isn't the most exciting thing to look at, of course. So at the same time, let's take a look at what else we can do. And the new feature that we have is the ability to upload an arbitrary file from your file system. Now, we do limit the file size to 1 gigabyte. We think that is fair and sensible. For a size, if you have files that are larger than that, it's, well, first of all, probably quite unwieldy to upload them to begin with, and you might have them on some publicly accessible URL. Where with the URL import, the file size is actually unlimited. So as long as it fits into your cluster, we will happily attempt to import it. Although I haven't seen anyone attempt 50 gigabyte JSON file imports yet, but maybe that will happen. So we do support CSV, JSON lines, and Parquet files. JSON lines, meaning for those who are not familiar with it, is just a text file with each line containing a JSON document in its entirety. And Parquet is a highly optimized, highly compressed, new, fairly new data storage format, which we also support. So in both cases, both for URL and file import, the table can exist, or rather, if it already exists, we will insert into an existing table. But if not, the table will be auto-created for you based on inferring the data types from the data itself. This works better for some formats than for others. Parquet has extensive information about the types of each column, whereas CSV and JSON, that's a bit more difficult, and the guessing might not work necessarily as expected. So for this one, let's say for webinar from file, and let me go and select the same New York City dataset. It's also JSON encoded and gzip compressed. Let's try to upload it. My internet connection is doing pretty well today. So what happens in the background here is we're using an amazing feature from AWS S3 called pre-signed URLs. And are pre-signing in the backend a URL for you to be able to upload the file. And that is happening transparently. The Cloud UI handles it for you entirely. So as you can see, the URL import has already started and has imported already about 74 megabytes and 3.3 million records. And the file import has just begun. And this is giving you a progress bar as well of how well it is doing. I should also say that all of the features that we have here are also available from the command line. So the CrateDB Cloud service has a command line interface called Crowd, which anyone can access and just install with pip. And you are then able to perform all of these same operations like uploading files, creating import jobs, and etc. from the command line if you so choose. So while the files are importing, I'm going to quickly switch to the admin UI of the CrateDB cluster that I'm importing them into. And as you can see, we have two new tables here called for webinar from file and for webinar from URL, and the files are the stuff is being imported into them. So in both cases, we can see that we've managed to auto-detect a whole bunch of column types. Actually, most of them ended up as text in this case, from the file that is being imported, and auto-create the table for you. I have a bunch of other tables in this database instance as well that I've had from before. So while these are importing, which is not the most exciting thing in the world to look at, how about we quickly switch to Grafana and take a look at what you can do with Grafana and CrateDB, and specifically CrateDB Cloud instances. So the first thing I should note before we go on is that CrateDB is fully wire compatible with the Postgres protocol, meaning that you can import, use CrateDB just like a Postgres database when it comes to using it with third-party tools like Grafana. So all you need to do is configure a Grafana, a Postgres compatible, a Postgres database connection, essentially, just like you would do with actual Postgres, which means that there is no need for specific drivers for CrateDB. And most tools just work out of the box, and it's not limited to Grafana. We're also working fine with tools like Metabase, of which we've done a webinar before, and also Tableau for those on the more corporate side of the spectrum. So what we've done, what me and Roman have done for this webinar, is we've created a small dashboard that we can use to visualize what we've just been importing. And we've run a few queries that show the SQL capabilities of CrateDB. And in this case, what we're doing is just grouping the top pickup locations for New York City taxis and overlaying them on a map using all standard Grafana features. So as you can see here, unsurprisingly, the biggest circles are around JFK Airport, somewhere in Midtown, and actually LaGuardia Airport has quite a few bits and bobs as well. The great power, of course, of CrateDB, meaning that it is fully SQL compatible, or mostly SQL compatible with Postgres, meaning that slicing and dicing the data that you import is fairly straightforward and fairly easy to do in CrateDB. So you don't need to learn an additional language like you would do with some other non-SQL databases. I'm not going to talk about our competition, of course. So another interesting insight, top 30 most expensive pickup locations, meaning where do people spend, people who are picked up spend most money. And unsurprisingly, again, the most expensive one is New York Airport, because it's not actually in New York, it's in New Jersey. So it's quite a significant taxi ride, costing about $100 to get into on average to get anywhere. And I've done that ride myself, and I can tell you that's about right to get into Midtown Manhattan. And another thing that we've done is just try to find the 30 most popular journeys. I don't know what NV actually stands for, but it's very popular. But mostly taxi journeys are fairly short, and people are going up and down from the Upper East Side south to north, and etc., and vice versa, which is also perhaps unsurprising. So going back here, you can see the URL import has already finished, and the file import is nearly there as well. As I mentioned, we support JSON, CSV, and Parquet files. I don't have an example of a Parquet file with me, but trust me, it works just the same, just like any other format. And this is a brand new feature that is coming out into CrateDB Cloud from about next week. Seeing here the results of that import, 142 megabytes imported and 6.3 million records, which we can match with here. So about 6.3 million records as well. I suppose one thing to say as well about this, I think I'm going to get back to the presentation now. Oops. Is that, Roman, do you want to do this part actually?
Yeah, I might do this part, and also just a few things to connect with what you just showed. All the connection information. So we invested quite a bit of work to document and also make the connection information that you will need to make CrateDB work with something like Grafana easy to access. So if you have if you don't know how that works, just head over to our documentation or log into the Cloud Console. There is guidance and information there. Also, if you have any struggle there, don't hesitate to reach out to us on the community page and drop your questions. We are more than happy to help you set that up. On the data import itself, Romano's already mentioned it. Parquet. If you need a Parquet file, just head to newyorkcity.gov. All the taxi data information is also available as Parquet files if you want to try that out. And it's just two things I wanted to mention there on a side note. So to wrap this up, so the key takeaways here are that CrateDB Cloud now enables users to import data from a public URL and also from your local storage. The file import can be triggered in the console in our web UI that we showed, and also with our command line interface. And Romanos just helped me here. Also, the API also does support that.
If you so desire, you can use the API directly, the publicly available API, and upload files that way.
So available on all our interfaces to do that. We currently support CSV, JSON, and Parquet files and gzip compression. As we said, it may be important for you is importing data does not invoke any additional cost for the users. So feel free to play around with it as extensively as you want to. And yes, so that's that. Data import will be a continuous topic on CrateDB Cloud's roadmap. I mentioned initially that one of the aims with that feature was to not only unlock the features in it themselves, but also to lay the groundwork for future developments. So what we will definitely do is expand the supported formats for data importing. We also investigate to unlock direct import from popular sources like Kaggle. Also an interesting direction to go would be to enable connection to streams like Kafka or Event Hubs. And one thing that I would be also very excited about would be to support file export, not only import. This is a feature that has been requested a couple of times for CrateDB open source. Not that easy to do there, but we might be able to do that in cloud in the future. All of these are like the things that we currently investigate. Of course, we are very keen to hear your thoughts and get input on what you would most value from that list or any other ideas. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us on either the community, just drop us a note there, or open up a thread, or just drop us an email to product@crate.io. We're always happy to get in conversation with our customers and exchange on ideas and better understand your use cases and the gaps that we need to fill up to make Crate a solid choice for you. Having that said, let's head into Q&A. We already have a few questions that have been raised. Two of them are related to data upload, and the third one is a more broad CrateDB question. I hope you're fine with that. I will start with the ones that are more related to data import, and then let's head to the broader question afterwards, if that's fine with you. So Romanos, the first question that got raised is around what are the limits of data upload?
Yes, very, very good question, and thank you for asking that, anonymous attendee. The limit for file uploads is 1 gigabyte. It is a sensible limit, we think, because well, larger than 1 gigabyte files are quite difficult to upload in any case, or can be quite difficult to upload depending on your internet connection. And for URL imports, the size is unlimited, as I mentioned. If it fits into your cluster, we will gladly attempt to import it.
Okay. I think that's answer enough. Just quickly, did you mention how many uploads you can do in parallel, or did I miss that?
We don't limit how many uploads you are able to do in parallel.
Then the question came up is the next question that came up is which file formats we intend to support in the future.
The list is not exhaustive. We will, of course, support all of the CSV variants, including TSVs and pipe separated values and etc. And if a format is popular enough, we are planning on adding it.
Cool. Thanks for that. Eduardo asked a more broader question, and I think we might take like a bit of time to answer that because I think it's a good one. Eduardo wants to know. Eduardo writes about that he's using MongoDB and Elasticsearch on premise. He thinks CrateDB is easy to scale horizontally, like Elasticsearch. But in MongoDB, the infra is very complex. And he has a concern with a problem around deleted documents that are stored in Lucene. And he wants to basically know if we think that CrateDB is an alternative to MongoDB. I mean, it's a rather technical question. So he basically wants to know if CrateDB is an alternative to MongoDB as their primary database. Any thoughts on that?
So I think in principle, I think me and Roman are probably not the best people to answer that because it's a very core technical CrateDB question. But in short, we are running in CrateDB Cloud numerous databases with terabytes of data that perform enormous amounts of updates on the data as well. And the state of the Lucene index has not been a problem for us yet. So I would say absolutely, Crate as an alternative to MongoDB is, well, in the vast majority of cases, definitely works better than Mongo itself. Yeah, I would say go for it. We are happy to do a trial with you and have a play yourself, Eduardo. Feel free to provision a free cluster, or in fact use the free credits. You get up to $200 and provision a bigger cluster to try that out. I hope that answers your question.
Also, just to add to that, if you want to, I mean, of course we have people who are happy to engage in that discussion, especially around Lucene and the pitfalls of that. So feel free to reach out to us on the community page or just drop us an email and we set up a quick call with one of our solution engineers or consultants to just discuss that with you in detail. Cool. Another question that comes up is, what happens if an import job fails?
You get that communicated to you on screen and told why exactly the import job failed. Usually it's either because something is not parsable within the import job, or you've selected the wrong format options, for example. I think that segues very nicely into the next question as well, which was what happens if you do not have enough storage for the file that you want to import. In our case, the import will run as long as the storage fills up on your cluster, at which point the disk watermarks will kick in and inserts will stop. But you will import, it's not a transaction. CrateDB is not a transactional database, so it's not all or nothing. It will go to import for as long as there is storage space in the cluster.
Yes. Edic wants to know if there is an interface between Oracle and CrateDB. I don't know if you want to answer that. I think there is not, right?
There isn't an interface. If you're talking in the spirit of Oracle database links or something like that, no, there is no interface for CrateDB to connect to Oracle. Although, however, I'm not sure, I'm not an Oracle expert, but if Oracle is able to connect to other databases as an external database source, then it would be able to do so with CrateDB due to Postgres compatibility.
Yeah, thanks for that. Next one, it's also a bit more technical, is how is the file upload on CrateDB Cloud different from copy from that you can already use in CrateDB? I mean, there's one thing that comes to mind for me is, I mean, copy from the data import supports more file formats than copy from does, and it does not allow uploading data directly from your local storage. Anything else that comes to mind, Romanos?
I think copy from will also allow you to upload data from local storage if that file is reachable by the CrateDB Cloud cluster, meaning that, of course, if you have a cluster running in the cloud somewhere or even on premises in the data center, you would first need to copy that file into somewhere where that cluster can access and then use copy from, which is quite inconvenient. We saw that being quite a big problem for our customers, and hence decided to build this file import feature into the Cloud Console.
Yeah. Eduardo asks yet another question. He wants to know if you can use pgadmin or any other graphical user interfaces in order to connect to CrateDB Cloud clusters, CrateDB cluster.
dbeaver works absolutely fine with CrateDB using the Postgres driver. pgadmin, to be fair, I've never tried. I think it should mostly work. However, Crate does not support all of the system tables that Postgres does, so your mileage might vary.
I think it used to be on the list of supported tools, but I need to check that. Also, Hernan, suggested dbcium on the chat, where we have a tutorial in the community. Another question that came up. Sorry, I just have an issue with technology. And what is the cost related to run CrateDB on the cloud? Which provider? So, thanks for the question. Maybe I just give my 5 cents to that. The current cost model of CrateDB is it's infrastructure related, depending on the size and the number of nodes in your cluster. We currently provide AWS, one region AWS and 2 regions in Azure. The costs are slightly different, but it's not that important. I think the easiest way to figure that out is just to log into the CrateDB Cloud console and play around with the configurations that will give you prices and pricing information. Also, if you think you're eligible for a discount because you need a giant cluster, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to negotiate. And yeah, I hope that answers the question. So that's the related cost. And the smallest cost, the cheapest cluster is for free. It's what Romanos mentioned before. It's a single node that you can deploy for free and play around with. And then we have clusters in all sizes and different price points. Anything to add, Romanos?
That covers everything.
Cool. One user asks if the free one is good for production. Romanos, I'll let you answer that, no?
I would probably not consider using free services for production use cases, but let us know if you manage to run production workloads on our CR3 cluster. We're more than happy. We'll let you do it. We have no problem with that, but be careful.
If you need to check if you need to check which setup is suited for a production environment, you can for once either talk to us and we give you some recommendations. What you can also use is you can just go to the cloud interface, set up an account, and you will get some free credits that will allow you to deploy any configuration. If you deploy a bigger one, the free credits run out earlier. So it should be easy for you to set to do a bit of trial and error on that without burning too much money or any money at all. All right. So not sure if there is any more questions. Doesn't look like. If any more questions come up, just reach out to us. I will just move on with the presentation in the meantime. If anything more comes up, we can wrap it up. Yeah, as we just said, there is every user on CrateDB Cloud can deploy a free tier, which is single node, shared cluster, which is good to experience CrateDB and to get used to it and see how easy it is to integrate and to work with. You will not be asked for a payment method, and it's basically free forever. The only condition is that you need to use it. If we don't see cluster activity, we first suspend it and then delete it. But even if your cluster is deleted, you can come back at any time in the future and redeploy that free cluster. So it's just a slot that is kept open for you if you don't occupy it with a free node. And on top of that, we also provide each new customer with $200 worth of free credit that you can spend on anything you want to deploy. And yeah, just head over to the console and try it out. I see no more questions. Thanks for joining and also for the questions and for the discussion. I want to make you aware of our next upcoming webinar, which is on the 31st of May. It will be a live demo about mastering monitoring. It will be a step-by-step guide to use Prometheus and Grafana with CrateDB Cloud. You can register. It will be a very interesting, very interactive session. So hopefully see you there. One more question came in also from a user is if the on-premise packages will always be available for download. To be honest with you, I guess so, but of course I cannot predict decisions for all eternity. But at this point, we have no intentions to limit or block that, at least none that I'm aware of. So should be safe.
I think we can.
There will always be CrateDB open source to be used for free on premise.
I think we can be more reassuring on that. The open source version will remain available for all eternity.
All right. Yeah, if there's nothing else, I think the only thing that's left to do is to say thank you very much If you have any questions, join our community, or if you have any need for information, also join our community on community.crate.io. It's not only a place to exchange with other CrateDB users, it's also a hub where you can find tutorials and instructions and interesting stuff to play around and learn about CrateDB. And also follow us on Twitter, on twitter.com/CrateDB. And what would also be fantastic is if you would head over to GitHub and give us a star and github.com/crate/crate. And I think that's it. Have a great afternoon and talk to you soon.
Thank you.